We've done this a few times now. Paused our working days to converge somewhere in the downstairs of our home to vent about the state of the world today, yesterday, what feels like an unending forever. Today, it was Mum's voice calling out yet another COVID death that pulled us from 2 high desks and laptop screens to the kitchen. The gong having tolled for a new life every day of the last 2 weeks. Some names I recognise, others I don't. The impact surprisingly the same. Who to blame? The government? Laughable to me who has never known a Nigeria with a government I deem suitable. Not in the years I spent living there, and not in the years I become more visitor than resident. 26 years of watching Africa's giants decline to nothing. Our outward bravado, a mask for the meteoric decline of our everything. No light, no water, terrible roads, laughable healthcare, the idea of an education system. But thank God for the music, am I right? Or is it thank God for the weddings? Because if you weren't at Governor X's daughter's $3 million wedding last weekend, you missed out on something spectacular. Boast from the mouth of someone whose daddy miraculously fell into wealth somewhere in '84 by virtue of being the friend of a minion of a head of state. The kind of pedigree one only gets by being part of one of the most well-known business dynasties. You know them. The business dynasties with no other notable office than public ones. It doesn't matter that Naira is 390 Naira to $1, or that a government's annual income is 10 million Naira. Who's doing the math when cash is talking? Some. If you look quickly enough, you see questioning facial expressions swiftly concealed by masks of indifference or deference, depending on the occasion. Adjustments artfully made by people who have something to say but have long learnt that anger is best swallowed speedily because the consequences can be fatal, not just socially, physically. Sure, the Nigerian flag is a garish green, white, green. But if you look closely enough, shine your eye well, you will see a diagonal stripe of red going across. 2 slashes meeting only in the middle. Touch it and fall in line with Macbeth Lady. Idiagmo, Babangida, MK Abiola. I just turned 4 when Abacha was assassinated. My sister, on the cusp of 6, still remembers the jubilation that filled the air that day. The staff member at my mother's office whose excitement saw her rip a frill from my mother's blouse. She recalls this memory today, her 27-year-old body trying to recreate what her almost 6-year-old body witnessed. Comical gold meets sobering history. Yes, the frill was white. A signal of our surrender out of the hands of tyrannical military rule into what we now recognise as democracy. A new world where the addition of an official title to a person's name is all the incentive their belly needs to grow to proportions that defy gravity. But not just yet. On the other side of Abacha was head of state Abdulsalami Abubakar, with the promise of Nigeria's 4th republic, my mother reminds me. We were sceptical, she shares, her face clouded by images of the past. She quickly becomes mother of 1 and only about to become one of 2. A business owner slowly growing into herself. A sister who still does not know what happened to her brother who disappeared shortly after the Vashta coup of 1985. We're old enough and know now not to probe this memory. Old enough to understand that it's more than a mystery of the past, but an ever-present pain. So we focus instead on another past, roll the dice and land on June 12th. Coincidence or coordinated? You decide. That was the season where hired assassins reigned. For 1,500 Naira, you could hire someone at Balogun Market to take out an enemy. People were pricing meat and pricing murders in broad daylight. People were dying like flies. That's how X's dad died. He ended up on the wrong side of a business deal. Each syllable drips with disgust as she talks about the years I took my first breath and first steps, said my first words, and made her a mother of two. My brother born a year after in 95 would make her a mother of three. I'd like to think of my sister born in 97 as the celebration baby. We need a name for children born on the other side of coups and dictators, bloodshed and fear. In my house, we call them Olufola Jimi. The Lord has given me good fortune. But the world doesn't stop being bad because my sister was born. I know this because the headline, Funshaw Williams, Lagos gubernatorial candidate found murdered, is in the highlight reel of my childhood. It was the first time I understood that a person being found bound, stabbed, and strangled was more than a thing that happened in fiction. It happened to men who dared challenge the electoral status quo. I was 10, swept up in the excitement of election season for the first and last time. What is a free and fair election to a country where candidates can be permanently silenced and nobody is brought to justice? Where on July 27, 2020, 14 years after the fact, people are still pleading for an investigation into the murder of Funshaw Williams. No, seriously, what is a free and fair election when Obasanjo kind of led the country as military and twice elected democratic leader? Where Buhari can come back and do the same, each time worse than the last. Where we can vote in a Conservative government, led by David Cameron, and end up with Theresa May and Boris Johnson in the same term. Where Hillary Clinton can win the popular vote, but Trump, the Electoral College. Earlier this year, I sailed on the Nile in Sudan and listened as people spoke about the protests that had occupied much of 2019. It was a beautiful day and I was guest, so we didn't talk about the grit of the revolution. We spoke of the aftermath. I listened and asked questions about what had changed and stayed the same. In the responses, I could not miss the caution-tinged hope, the furtive glances, the tense hands and feet, jaws straining under the weight of clenched teeth. So perhaps democracy is the choice you have from pre-selected choices you dare not question. Because what many people are learning today is that questioning the status quo can see you disappearing into an unmarked van, playing with the odds of one day resurfacing. Tomorrow I'll ask my friend to tell me about Lebanon. Watch her eyes become dark pools, her teeth worrying her bottom lip as she thinks of her younger sister, father, cousin, home. Next week, I set my eyes on Turkey.